to former President Jimmy Carter and his attempt to defend President Obama's absence from the Paris rally.
I know that President Obama's just come back from vacation. I know how it is when you've been gone for a week or two. Your desk is piled up, and he had other pressing problems to address. So I don't think there's any reflection on our country, or no criticism is worthy.
And joining us, our political panel, the Washington Examiner, Susan Ferriccio, and the Washington Post, Aaron Blake. Susan, please never have President Jimmy Carter defend me when I haven't done something, please.
Well, he's a forgiving guy. The president was on vacation.
That's fine, but he's lousy at it.
Lots of work. Well, I know that wasn't the right response, but let's give the guy a break. He's former president, 90 years old. Jimmy Carter is the least of his problems right now. I think this, again, as Joe said, underscores the disengagement between the White House and the rest of the world. And it also underscores a problem people see with the White House, with a lack of a willingness to embrace the threat of Islamic terrorism. You heard the back and forth today at the White House press briefing between Mara Liasson and the White House spokesman over how they define this problem, and their just lack of a willingness to define it. And now you have the leader of the free world not showing up at this huge unity rally on behalf of freedom of expression. It just, again, the message is not a good one coming from the White House.
Aaron, is there any chance, I mean, I've heard in the past that President Carter has been sort of prickly with other presidents. Is there any chance that he was not trying to really defend him, but trying to do just the opposite and be a little snarky?
They do have a very interesting relationship. Jimmy Carter has talked about how the White House doesn't really call on him for advice, even though they talk to other presidents. I think what's interesting about Carter, though, is he comes from an interesting spot in that he was kind of in a similar situation in 1980. Yugoslavian President Tito died. Carter did not go to the funeral. He did send, I believe, the vice president at that time, but he didn't go himself. He got criticized for it, eventually had to show up in Yugoslavia in the heat of a presidential campaign because this was getting to him. So I think as a former president, you have a perspective that you get criticized for kind of not doing the optics of these things. And coming from that perspective, I think it's easy for him to commiserate with President Obama on this one.
I happen to think that the president really wasn't required at that rally. In fact, it would have been unusual to have really a game changer.
You really
if he
think
showed
President
up
Obama
there.
shouldn't have gone?
For the short time they would have had to plan that and the security elements, it wouldn't surprise me if they would try to not have him go. What about Kerry? Why can't Kerry? He would have been just as prominent a figure walking along.
Because you want to send Junior there, someone junior to you. I mean, everyone else, Netanyahu managed to get there. I want to be proud of my president standing tall with the rest of the world. And you know what? Even though Vice President Biden's the vice president, and Secretary Kerry, who did it someplace else to go, I still think we needed the president there.
I think that if the White House knew that all these foreign leaders, if the heads of all these European nations were going to be there, Israel, the Palestinian Authority, if they knew the heads of each of those entities were going to be there and they didn't send the president, that's a little bit more dicey, I think, just because of the people who did wind up showing up.
And how and why didn't they know? And that is disturbing.
Panel, stay with us.